I'm 42, and I guess you could say I've had a complicated past couple of years. I married my husband, Greg, 3 years ago after dating for almost 2. We were both previously divorced, and we thought we'd found that second chance everyone talks about. He had a teenage son from his first marriage, Caleb, who was 17 when we got married. I don't have kids of my own, never could, but I tried my best to be kind, give space, and not force some stepmom fairy tale. Caleb was a difficult, not outright rude, but cold, distant. I figured he just needed time. His mom, from what I heard, left them both when he was little, so I understood why trust might be hard for him. I didn't take it personally. At first, he just ignored me most of the time. Then little things started happening, subtle stuff that didn't seem worth fighting over. My favorite coffee mugs would go missing. My car keys would be moved. My laptop, which I always left in the same spot, would sometimes be shut and relocated when I came home. Greg laughed most of it off, said Caleb was a prankster and liked messing with people. He told me not to overthink it. Boys will be boys, and all that. So I tried to laugh along too, even when it was obvious the pranks were getting a little meaner. One day, my shampoo was swapped out with hair dye, black, permanent, and definitely not subtle. I'd just gotten my hair done 2 days earlier. I was fuming. Greg told Caleb to apologize, which he did, half-heartedly, with a smirk on his face. Then Greg bought me flowers and said it wouldn't happen again. I let it go. That was almost a year ago. But then came the prank that ended everything. And that's what this whole story is really about. It happened one Tuesday while I was at work. I manage a small but high-end interior design firm downtown, and that day, we had a major presentation for a wealthy new client. I was gone all day, left early in the morning, got home late. When I walked through the front door, everything felt off. The house was too quiet. Greg was out of town visiting his mother, so it was just Caleb at home. I expected to find him holed up in his room playing games. Instead, I opened the door and immediately noticed that my office, my little workspace near the front window, had been completely trashed. I don't mean messy. I mean violated. My laptop was wide open with a string of pornographic pop-ups flooding the screen. Someone had gone into my emails. There were messages sent to clients, explicit, disgusting things. I froze. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even type. I finally yanked the plug on the laptop and stood there for a minute trying to catch my breath. Then I heard it. Laughter. From Caleb's room. I went down the hall, still in shock, still unsure of what the hell I was even walking into. I knocked on his door. No answer. So I opened it, and there he was, on his phone, watching a video and laughing like it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He looked up, saw me, and immediately went dead quiet. Then he said it. It was just a prank. That's all. That's all he said. I asked him what he'd done. He shrugged and said he'd just sent a few jokes to my work friends, and messed with my stuff to teach me not to go in his room, which I never had. He thought it would be hilarious if my clients got a taste of something different. I stood there, stunned, trying to wrap my head around what he'd done. He thought it was funny. Except it wasn't. One of those clients had already responded, furious, demanding to know what kind of filth I was sending and whether my company thought that kind of thing was professional. That client dropped us the next morning. Another 2 followed by the end of the week. I lost more than just clients. I lost my reputation. And when I told Greg what happened, he didn't believe me. Greg came home the next night. I hadn't said much over the phone because honestly, I didn't trust myself not to scream. I waited until he walked through the door, took a breath, and sat him down. I told him everything, what Caleb had done, the messages, the emails, the videos, all of it. At first, he looked confused. Then annoyed. But not at Caleb. At me. He kept asking if I was absolutely sure Caleb was the one behind it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was standing in our kitchen, arms crossed like I was accusing some innocent kid of murder. He said maybe I'd forgotten to log out somewhere, or clicked a bad link. That maybe a virus did all of this. A virus? He was grasping at anything, other than the truth. I was furious. So I opened my phone and pulled up the security footage from our hallway camera. We'd installed it after a break-in scare last year. Greg had actually insisted on it. And lucky for me, it caught exactly what I needed. Caleb walking into my office with a USB drive, plugging it into my laptop, sitting there for 20 minutes, then walking out laughing. When Greg saw the footage, he went completely still. Not angry. Not even shocked. Just quiet. Then he asked to talk to Caleb privately. I heard the yelling from upstairs. I didn't care. Honestly, I hoped it shook the walls. But it didn't fix anything. Because 2 days later, Greg came back to me and said the same thing Caleb had, it was just a prank. He said Caleb was just being a dumb teenager, that he didn't mean to ruin anything. That I shouldn't blow up our family over a mistake. I asked him if he understood what I had lost. My clients. My credibility. Potential legal trouble, if anyone decided to press harassment charges based on those emails. My business was hanging on by threads. But somehow, Greg still looked at me like I was the one overreacting. Then he said something I'll never forget, if you keep pushing this, you're going to lose both of us. And just like that, I realized he had already made his choice. I packed a bag that night. Nothing dramatic. No slamming doors or screaming fights. Just a quiet, shaking kind of heartbreak. The kind where you realize that the person you married will protect someone else, even when they've destroyed you. I stayed at a friend's place across town. Slept on her couch, tried to answer client emails, salvage what I could. But the damage was done. Word had spread. One of the clients forwarded screenshots to another firm we often collaborated with. Suddenly no one wanted to touch my company. I wasn't just a burned bridge, I was radioactive. And through it all, Greg never reached out. Not once. No messages, no calls. Caleb was still living in that house like nothing happened, and apparently, Greg had just decided to move on without me. I honestly couldn't believe how quickly he dropped me. A week later, I drove back to grab the rest of my things. I didn't want to deal with either of them, so I waited until I knew they'd both be out. But when I got inside, I noticed something strange right away. My office? Empty. All my equipment, my backup drives, my design books, the framed sketches I kept since college, gone. I stood there staring at the bare shelves. My stomach dropped. I went into the closet, same thing. My clothing was there, sure, but my locked file box? The one with my old business contracts, tax forms, NDAs? Gone. That's when I noticed the trash bin under the desk. I reached in, pulled out a crumpled envelope. One of my business cards. Torn in half. Written across the back, in smudged Sharpie. Still think I'm just a kid? That's when I knew. It wasn't a prank. Caleb hadn't been acting out or being immature. He hadn't made a mistake. He'd done it on purpose. All of it. I stood in my old office for a long time, just staring at that note. Still think I'm just a kid? It was taunting. Mocking. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. The messed up shampoo, the missing keys, the coincidental client complaints I'd been getting even before the email debacle. Caleb had been messing with me from the start, and it wasn't for fun. It was methodical. Calculated. I started digging around, desperate to find something. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it sooner. I opened drawers, scanned every inch of the room, even lifted the rugs, like there might be some other clue tucked underneath. That's when I found it. Tucked between the couch cushions in the living room, of all places, a small USB flash drive. It didn't have a label, but I knew Caleb. He was sloppy in the end. Arrogant. I took it back to my friend's place and plugged it into my laptop, half expecting it to fry the hard drive. But instead, it opened a folder labeled simply, LOL. Inside were dozens of files. Screenshots of my emails. Drafts he'd written but never sent. Photos from my phone, that I hadn't shared with anyone. Some were just boring selfies or outfit snaps, but some were private. Embarrassing. There was even a screen recording of my webcam taken while I was working, my face scrunched in concentration, unaware I was being watched. He'd hacked into my devices. He'd been collecting data on me like it was some sick game. Like I was the enemy in a strategy simulation and he was just waiting to pull the trigger. Then I found the file that made my stomach turn to ice. A Word doc titled, How to Get Rid of Her. It was a list. Asterisk make her look unprofessional. Asterisk get her to blow up at dad. Asterisk collect proof she's unstable. Asterisk suggest she's having an affair. Asterisk record her yelling. Asterisk sabotage her work stuff. Asterisk let her ruin herself. It read like a hit list, only it wasn't physical, it was character assassination. And Greg still thought it was a prank. I didn't sleep that night. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That list, how to get rid of her, looped in my head over and over like a sick mantra. I kept asking myself the same question, why? Why would a kid go this far just to destroy someone who tried to be kind to him? But I stopped asking eventually. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I had proof now. Hard, undeniable proof. So I backed everything up twice, one copy on a new drive I kept on me, another in the cloud under a name Caleb wouldn't think to search. I'd worked too hard in my life to let a 17-year-old sociopath erase me. I wasn't going down quietly. And I wasn't going to Greg this time. No. I went to Greg's ex-wife. I'd only met her once at a school event, but I remembered her name. After a bit of online searching, I found her LinkedIn, then her photography business page. I sent a simple message, "Hi. I need to talk to you. It's about Caleb. It's serious." She called me within 20 minutes. At first, she was defensive, suspicious, said she hadn't spoken to Greg in over a year and didn't want any drama. I told her I understood completely, but that I had something on her son she needed to see. When I showed up at her studio the next morning and plugged in the USB, her entire face changed. Not just shock. Not just horror. She looked terrified. She scrolled through the files, silent, until she reached the list. Then she pushed back from her desk like the thing might explode in her hands. Then she told me something that made me feel like the floor disappeared beneath me. She said Caleb had done this before. She told me the story slowly, like she wasn't sure she even believed it herself. She looked haunted, like this wasn't the first time she'd buried it deep just to survive. When Caleb was 14, there was a girl named Maddie. She was in his science class, soft-spoken, a little awkward, sweet. Caleb didn't bully her outright. He was smarter than that. He befriended her. Gained her trust. They texted constantly. Shared jokes. He even invited her to his birthday party that year. Everyone thought they were dating. Then Maddie stopped coming to school. Her mom pulled her out and homeschooled her for the rest of the year. Rumors spread. Some said Maddie had a breakdown. Others whispered about pictures that had gotten out. Cruel messages. Pranks. Caleb played innocent. Claimed she was crazy. Said she obsessed over him and he had to cut her off. He even cried when the school counselor questioned him. Said he felt bad, but it wasn't his fault. His mother, Greg's ex, believed him. She wanted to believe him. But she admitted something to me that she'd never said to anyone before. She found a folder on his laptop after the incident, hidden deep in a renamed games directory. Inside were private photos of Maddie, chat logs, and voice recordings. There was even a mock video he'd edited with fake text messages to make it look like she was threatening him. She confronted him. Screamed at him. But Caleb didn't cry that time. He smiled. Said she couldn't prove anything. Said the school already believed his side. And they did. He never got in trouble. She said she always felt ashamed for not doing more, but Greg refused to believe it. Said boys go through phases. That Maddie was unstable. And over time, she started to wonder if she had overreacted. If maybe Caleb had just made a dumb mistake. But now? Now she knew. She turned to me with watery eyes and said, "You're not the first. But you need to be the last." I left her studio with my heart pounding. It felt like I was carrying a bomb in my purse. Like every minute I waited was another chance for him to strike again. I wasn't about to be another Maddie. Not a cautionary tale. Not some footnote in Caleb's history of broken women. I drove straight to the police station. I had the flash drive. The list. The hacked files. I explained everything, what happened to my business, the harassment, the planted emails, the invasion of privacy. I gave them the full story. I even mentioned what his mother had told me, though she wasn't ready to speak to them herself yet. At first, the officer I talked to seemed concerned, especially when I showed them the how to get rid of her file and the webcam footage. But the minute I mentioned Caleb's age, 17, their tone shifted. He was a minor. Barely. They said I had a case, sure. But because the laptop was in our shared house, and I hadn't changed my passwords or secured my equipment, the lines were blurry. They used the phrase domestic gray area. And then they hit me with the real gut punch. Caleb had already filed a report. Against me. 3 days earlier, he claimed I'd been emotionally abusive. Said I threatened him during an argument and had been spying on him. He even showed them a video clip, carefully edited, of me yelling at him, completely out of context. You couldn't hear what we were talking about, but my voice was raised and I looked unhinged. He also claimed I'd taken his flash drive without permission. He'd flipped the script. And he'd done it first. The officer advised me to stay calm and let the process play out. They'd look into both sides. But I could tell from the look on his face, I was already losing ground. And that's when I realized Caleb wasn't just playing games anymore. He was winning. I was done waiting for things to play out. The police weren't moving fast enough, and Caleb had already laid the groundwork to make me look like the villain. I had one last move. A desperate one. But if it worked, it would end this for good. I went back to the house. Greg wasn't there, Caleb was alone. I'd made sure of it. I told him I needed to pick up a few things I'd left behind and asked if I could do it without drama. He agreed too easily, which only confirmed what I already knew. He thought he'd won. He greeted me with that smug little smile I'd seen so many times before. I stayed calm, polite, walked past him like I didn't know a thing. Then I asked him one question, soft and harmless. What made you hate me so much? And he actually answered. He told me I was just another woman trying to control his dad. Said I was fake, weak, a leech who was only successful because I got lucky. He said he'd seen right through me from day one, and decided to have a little fun. That's what he called it. Fun. He said Maddie had deserved it too. That she'd cracked too easily. Then he laughed, like it was a joke, like he hadn't just admitted to destroying someone's life again. What he didn't know. I was recording everything. I'd worn a mic, borrowed from my friend's studio setup. Every word he said, every smirk, every vile detail, it was all captured. His voice, my calm, his confession. But that wasn't even the worst part. As I was walking toward the door to leave, I caught a glimpse of his phone, screen unlocked, camera app open. He'd been recording me too. But not the conversation. Just me. My face. My movements. Trying to catch a moment of anger. Proof to feed the victim narrative he was building. He was planning to edit the footage again. To twist everything. But this time? I had the full story. I left the house without another word. No slamming doors. No threats. I just smiled, like I hadn't won anything, because people like Caleb don't panic when you fight back. They panic when you don't. I sent the full audio recording to his mother first. Within an hour, she called me crying. She said she finally believed everything. That she was ready to talk to the police, to the school board, to anyone who'd listen. Then I sent the recording to the detective on the case. I didn't hear anything for 2 days. And then I got the call. Caleb was being investigated for digital harassment, invasion of privacy, and defamation. They couldn't charge him as an adult because of his age, but they had more than enough to press charges in juvenile court. Especially after his mother came forward with the old laptop she'd kept all these years. Maddie's files. The forgotten proof. Turns out, Maddie's family had moved states to get away from the trauma. But now they were involved. Her parents confirmed everything. And they were ready to sue. Greg, of course, exploded. He called me non-stop, accused me of destroying his son's life, said I'd gone nuclear, that I was vindictive. But he was wrong. I wasn't vengeful. I was free. The investigation made waves. It reached my old clients. Some of them even apologized for dropping me. A few offered work again. I didn't take it. I wanted a fresh start. I moved out of state. Opened a smaller, quieter firm. One that I built entirely on my own name, not attached to anything or anyone from that mess. And I never looked back. As for Caleb, he's now the subject of a sealed juvenile case. And while that might not follow him forever, the truth is out. And the people who matter? They know who he really is. But you want to know what really closed the door for me? Weeks after I moved, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Just a plain envelope inside with one of my old business cards. Torn in half. And nothing else. He was still trying to haunt me. But this time? I smiled, tossed it in the trash, and went back to work. Because Caleb didn't ruin me. He freed me.